Good morning, Dr. Salvato. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. It's good to be here.
I check 1, 2, check, check, check. Welcome. I can't hear anything.
Can y'all hear us?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, you can hear?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Well, welcome to the fall 2023 meeting of the ACGM Advisory Committee. I want to thank you all for making time to attend either in person or virtually. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I'm James Dolman. I'm a director here in the Division of Human Health Affairs. I've worked with the ACGM for a long time, and I'm happy to have you all here. I'm going to go to my colleague, Amanda.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Alston, and I'm the one that's been corresponding with the most of you. So it's good to put a face to the name for the majority of you.
Okay, well, note that the time is 9:05, and let's call the meeting to order, and let's go around and introduce everyone, and in the process, we'll be able to take roll and certify that we have a quorum. So, Amanda, would you go ahead and pick people off and ask them to introduce themselves?
Yes, I do want to preface by saying this meeting is being held via Zoom, and please be aware that although we are meeting via Zoom, it's still being broadcast live via the internet on YouTube. And we have a couple of rules real quick, and we ask that you observe the following. Please leave your camera on. Please state your name before you speak. Mute your microphone when not speaking, and keep your background noise to a minimum. And we would greatly appreciate that. And at this time, I will go ahead and start with roll. So when I say your name, if you could just give me your most recent title and what you university or college you represent, that'd be great. We have Joshua Villalobos.
Joshua?
I see you present. Looks like you might be on mute. Okay, I'll check back.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is Joshua Villalobos. I'm from El Paso Community College. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
No problem.
And what's your current role there?
My current role is the instructional dean for the Mission Del Paso campus.
Instructional dean for what campus?
for the Mission Del Paso campus.
All right. And thank you so much. Miguel Ramos.
Hello, Miguel Ramos, Houston Community College. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Curriculum and Learning Initiatives. Good to meet you.
Thank you. Samuel Echevarria Cruz.
Good morning. I'm Samuel Echevarria Cruz. I'm at Austin Community College and I'm professor of sociology.
Heather Hicks.
Good morning. I'm Heather McClure now, short name change notice, sorry, Vice President of Instruction at Cisco College.
Margaret Richardson.
Margaret Richardson, good morning. St. Philip's College, faculty instructor, criminal justice and government.
Stephen Salvato.
Stephen Salvato. I'm at Central Texas College in Killeen. I am a chemistry professor and I also serve as the chemistry program coordinator in the science department here.
Tasha Brown is here with us today.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Rutherford College Chair of Behavioral Sciences.
Erica Richardson.
Good morning. I'm Erica Richardson at Trinity Valley Community College, and I'm the Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs.
Chris Nelson.
Morning, everyone. Chris Nelson. I serve as the Dean for Liberal Arts at South Texas College.
Thank you. Amy Shells. I see you made it. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm Amy Schaus. I'm the Associate Provost and Associate Vice President for Curriculum and Faculty Affairs at Tarleton State University.
Thank you. Chad Booth. Brenda Keel.
Hi, I'm Brenda Keel. I'm the Senior Associate Vice President of Academic Enrollment Partnerships at University of North Texas.
Thank you. Kenneth Wink. Barbara Smith.
Good morning, I'm Barbara Smith from the University of Texas at San Antonio. I'm the Executive Director for our Transfer and Transition Student Success Services.
Thank you. Lisa Lasher.
Hello, my name is Lisa Locker. I am an Associate Professor of Information Technology at University of Houston, Clear Lake. And I also serve as the Program Chair for IT.
Thank you. Nita Queen.
I got you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nita Butte Queen, and I am currently the Senior Associate Provost and Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Texas Southern University.
Thank you. Mary Bell Gonzalez.
Hello, my name is Maribel Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Admissions at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Carmen Carter. All right. I will do my best to pick up on all the name corrections that I missed. And also, all right, I believe I have everyone marked present. And was John Spencer able to join us today? No, it doesn't look like it at the moment. All right.
Oh, no, there he is. There he is in the middle. Hey, John.
Oh, there you are. Sorry about that. And we also have John Spencer here from Texas Common Force Numbering System. So thank you for joining us today. He is our ex officio member and he seems to be having mic issues. If you get that resolved and you have anything to say joining us, just let us know.
All right, well, I'm happy to say that we have a good quorum here. We have 15 out of 18 members. Thank you very much, members, for making the effort to attend and carving time out of your busy schedules for this meeting. Okay, so now that we have a quorum, we can move on to our first action item, which is electing co-chairs. So ACGM committee co-chairs basically are responsible for leading meetings. Amanda and I will consult with them about agenda and action items of meetings. We rely on the co-chair to help us have some continuity from meeting to meeting and year to year. But the workload is not heavy and there's not a whole lot of time outside of meetings that would be expected of you. Are there any questions about the duties and responsibilities of co-chairs?
We would need one representative from the university and one representative from the community college.
Correct. So you can self-nominate or you can nominate a colleague. Throw it open now. We start with, let's start with the university folks. We have a nomination for someone or someone's for a university co-chair.
I'll self-nominate. This is Nita Boutte-Queen.
Thank you, Nita. Okay, so we have a nomination of Nita. Do we have other nominations? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Nita as our university co-chair?
Aye.
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 Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Nita, thank you for stepping up. Okay, so just making a quick note of that. Now, nominations for a community college co-chair. Again, you can self-nominate or nominate a colleague.
Pretty painless process.
I'll self-nominate.
Thank you, Erica.
Christopher, did I see your hand as well? No. Okay, that was very clear.
Oh, thank you, Erica.
Any other nominations? No? Okay, all those in favor of Erica as our community college co-chair?
Aye.
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 Okay, let's get it by acclamation. We have another co-chair, community college co-chair. Okay, so now we have a university and a community college co-chair. We'll be updating our roster to reflect that. The next item is going to be a review of the ACGM and the charge of the committee. So give us just a minute so we can pull up our little PowerPoint presentation for it. In the meantime, we're going to make sure that the co-chairs have a copy of the agenda and they can help lead the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, you should.
Let me share my screen here so we can pull a PowerPoint presentation for you. Now we're going to give you some background on the ACGM. Maybe everyone's not fully conversant with the ACGM, so we're going to give you a little background, talk about the committee charge, the tasks assigned to the committee, and how the workflow goes. So the full name is the Lower Division Academic Course Guide Manual. It is the compendium of lower division courses that community colleges can freely offer and receive further funding for. Let's see this first slide. Okay. So, charge. The ACGM is the official list of courses which state funding is provided to community colleges. In effect, the ACGM comprises the academic course catalog for Texas public community colleges that they may offer without obtaining special permission from the coordinating board. Okay. So, the basic charge of the committee is to provide the board with advice and recommendations regarding new disciplines of study, developments within existing disciplines represented by courses in the manual, and vertical and horizontal alignment of courses within disciplines, and keeping track of the obsolescence of disciplines of study and courses. The specific tasks assigned to the committee are adding courses to the ACGM, deleting courses from the ACGM, revising courses in the ACGM, and what other activities may be necessary for the maintenance of the manual. Okay, so this has statutory and administrative code foundations. Here's some quotes from our administrative code that govern the function of the ACGM. The first section talks about the state funding that shall be provided. There are guaranteed state funding for ACGM courses that are offered at public community colleges, public technical colleges, and public state colleges. These courses are listed in the ACGM. They're reviewed and approved by the board in accordance with criteria and are consistent with the Texas Common Course Numbering System. John Spencer's here from the Texas Common Course Numbering System. This advisory committee and we staff sort of work hand in hand with the TCCNS. It's a long-standing partnership. We maintain the course manual, all the characteristics, the titles, descriptions, and learning outcomes. And the TCCNS, as the name implies, maintains the course rubrics and numbers. All TCCNS courses have 4-letter rubrics and 4-digit numbers to them that provide their unique identifier. The TCCNS keeps track of all those courses and keeps track of a sort of a crosswalk because many of the universities have their own numbering systems. And so you can go to the TCCNS website and take a look and see for all the universities in the state what their crosswalks are to TCCNS and ACGM courses. The addition of new courses, we've got the procedures there for revising. A new course may be approved by the board for inclusion in the ACGM if there's sufficient documented need for the course. What that means is basically that need means that there's a disciplinary need, there's demand by students, there's demand by institutions. So when we come to add new courses, we'll generally be looking for letters of support from community colleges. We'll be looking for information provided by the universities about how the course would transfer and apply to degree programs at that institution. We're generally looking for a number of colleges to want to offer the course and a number of universities willing to receive the course. Deletion of courses, we try to keep the manual current. That means trimming out those courses that are rarely or no longer offered by colleges, which are rarely taken by students who have low course enrollments, or courses that have just been rendered obsolete by changes in the discipline. So we periodically review the courses in the manual. Ned and I will get some data from our data division about course frequency and course usage, and we present that to the group, to the advisory committee, and ask them to make decisions and recommendations about courses that may need to be trimmed down. Revisions to courses in ACGM may be considered upon request. And basically that's sometimes by a particular institution that brings it forward. Sometimes that's information from an appropriate academic professional credentialing or accrediting organization like a statewide math group or a statewide English group and so forth. Or sometimes we board staff have suggest revisions based on our experience in working with colleges and universities. Okay, so here's a sample ACGM listing for those of you that aren't that familiar with the manual. If you look there, this is there's the TCCNS rubric and number, 4 letters, UNGL, and 4 numbers. 1302. This is the second section of freshman composition. That's the title, composition 2. Below that, you have course description. Below that, if there are any, we'll list the prerequisites and co-requisites. Right under that are what we just kind of call the course characteristics. The approval number, that's used in reporting by community colleges to get funding. And then below that, you'll see the max credit hours per student. In other words, how many times can a student take this course and receive credit? The maximum SCH per course, which is the credit hour value of the course each time you take it, and the maximum contact hours per course, which there's a contact to credit hour ratio that we keep track of as well. Most courses now have learning outcomes, I'm glad to say. This helps the receiving institutions in particular know what students will know and be able to do after they've successfully completed the course. Finally, we would note that courses in board-approved field of study curriculum or a statewide transfer compact get special consideration for inclusion into the ACGM because it's part of a larger statewide effort. All right, so we're going to call it there for now. We're going to go over the TTAC here in just a minute. I want to see if there are any questions, though, before we proceed. Are there any questions about the ACGM? Okay. Great. With no questions, we'll continue on with our presentation because our item 6 is going to be coming to us from a field of study effort. Okay, so the TTAC, the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee. So the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee is one of our standing committees. It advises the commissioner on the development of courses in the field of study curriculum, and it oversees the overall development of the field of study efforts. They plan out which disciplines will receive development, and they authorize we staff to create discipline-specific subcommittees that are composed of 2- and 4-year experts in the discipline, whatever discipline it is. Let's say it's English. We call together a bunch of English faculty, usually up to about 20-something faculty, sometimes 30-something faculty, quite large groups. Those discipline-specific subcommittees make recommendations about what courses should be in the field of study, and they take we staff bring those recommendations to TTAC. The co-chairs of the discipline-specific subcommittee, make a recommendation and make presentations to TTAC, who then make recommendations to the commission. Okay, so TTAC itself is composed of 24 members, again, equal representation from our 2-year and 4-year public institutions. Majority of TTAC members are faculty who teach in undergraduate programs and are engaged in transfer policy development. Other members of TTAC are administrators who understand transcripts and those actively involved in promoting seamless transfer students from public 2-year to public 4-year institutions. In addition, TTAC includes 2 ex officio students and 2 ex officio academic advisors. TTAC members serve staggered terms of up to 3 years, and they may be nominated for consecutive terms. Okay, field of study, FOS. Field of study legislation goes back to 1997. And essentially, it is a substitution process. If a student successfully completes a field of study curriculum developed by the board, that block of courses may be transferred to an academic teaching institution, which means a public university, and must be substituted for that institution's lower division requirements for the degree program for the field of study into which the student transfers. And the student shall receive full academic credit for the degree program for the block of courses transferred. So take note of that. It works in a fashion similar to the core curriculum in that it is a substitution. You folks at universities may have a set of requirements for your own students that started there. And the transfer students that show up at field study may not have the exact same set of courses. That's okay. It's a substitution process. The statute directs the field study curriculum to be developed with the assistance of advisory committees that, again, are equally composed of 2-year and 4-year representatives. Okay. Universities determine if a student is field study complete upon enrollment. For those field of study complete students, the university substitutes the block of courses from the receiving institution's lower division requirements for the degree program with the corresponding field of study curriculum. Okay. Now, note, a student may still take lower division coursework after transfer to fulfill non-major related requirements. What does that mean? Well, that means, for instance, if your university requires everyone to take 2 years of a foreign language, that would be an example of a non-major related requirement. For those students who have taken some but not all of the courses in field of study, the university must grant academic credit in the major for each of those FOSC courses, but then may require additional lower division coursework to round out the degree program's major coursework in the lower division. Okay, so we talk about there being 3 buckets or 3 parts to the field of study. Okay, those components are first the Texas core curriculum, and the group may recommend certain specific courses as part of a discipline-specific core curriculum. Then there are the discipline foundation courses. That's up to 12 semester credit hours. That is the course, sort of the core of the discipline itself. And then finally, there are directed electives. That's at least 6 semester credit hours. Those directed electives are chosen by the universities. So each university may have a different set of directed electives that they choose for each particular FOSC. How do these tools fit together? Okay, so the Texas core curriculum provides a foundation in 9 component areas to ensure that Texas students have a good general education that will transfer between 2-year and 4-year. The field of study curriculum allows a student to complete a discipline-specific set of courses that transfer and apply to the major at the university. Together, these two components will add up to 60 semester credit hours, which adds up to an academic associate. 2-year institutions offer academic associate degrees, where students are transferred to those public 4-year institutions. 2-year institutions may only offer ACGM courses in those academic associate degree programs. Successful use of our statewide transfer tools requires use of the ACGM that provides a common set of courses. And all ACGM courses use that common course numbering system numbering. That makes it easy for institutions, both 2-year and 4-year, to know what students are transferring with and to be able to successfully identify courses and their equivalents at universities. For those of you that want to dig in more in greater depth after the meeting, there's the link to the core curriculum, ACGM, common course numbering system, and field of study curriculum. Okay, so next up, we're going to discuss materials that we've gotten from the kinesiology group. And so I will turn it over to our co-chairs to lead discussion on the revised kinesiology courses and the newly proposed kinesiology courses. So there's co-chairs, there's 2 groups here. I'd recommend that we take the edits to the existing courses first and then tackle the new courses.
Can I ask a quick question about ACGM? I'm sorry, the field of study, real quick, sure, before we dig in? We're just having some questions about specifically when a student transfers a field of study and they may or may not meet the GPA requirements or specific course grade requirements that the major has for our FTICs. For example, let's say they have to get a C or better in a specific course to move on in the degree plan. Who do we ask questions like that to, or do you know the answer? If a student comes in field of study complete and they don't have a 2.7 that the College of Business requires in their pre-major courses, how does that apply and who do we ask those questions to?
Okay, those are questions that you can send to me. You can also send them to my colleague. And so you can go ahead and send those questions to me, actually. So the first thing I would say is that admission requirements still apply. So I noticed you talked about a certain GPA for admission to the College of Business. And that's something that that the field of study doesn't directly address is admission to particular programs. So your program admission requirements still may still remain the same. So this is a complex enough question that I'll probably need to get back to you on the nuances of it, but I can tell you that basically the admission requirements remain the same. The field of study administrative code is really about the transfer of the courses in particular, and it's not about admission to particular programs. Does that help? Yeah, Brenda, I'll converse with you offline and we can get into more depth because I know there's more nuance to your question beyond that. But that's the basic answer: is that field of study itself does not address admission requirements. It's about course transfer.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah. I'll also hook you up with my colleague, Carl Kruger. He and I work together on the field of study curriculum issues. Okay. Any other questions about field of study before we move on to our kinesiology business? Okay. Co-chairs, would you like to lead the discussion? We have the work of the ACGM of the kinesiology group. And we have a list of revised courses that they work on. Nita, Erica?
So the first of the edits, do we go one by one for these as we're discussing them, or do we look at them as a whole?
That's your decision. This is you can take them one by one, or you can take them as a group. If you'd like me to give a little background on how the committee worked, I'd be happy to do that as well.
That would be nice if you could give a little background.
Certainly. So the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee recommends which disciplines are developed for field of study, as I said earlier. They make those decisions based on data provided by coordinating board staff. We staff look at what are the majors that are frequently transferred, basically. What are the most frequent majors of transfer students? What do students end up transferring and then going into at the university? And we develop a list of disciplines, like a top 20 sort of list. And out of that list, the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee recommends then that we develop certain ones in a certain order. Kinesiology is one of the ones recommended. We pulled together a kinesiology group of 2-year and 4-year faculty. And they had a couple of meetings, but they felt that the kinesiology or physical education courses in the ACGM were not up to date and not sufficient for the needs of a current field of study. So we paused the work of that committee, and my assistant commissioner tasked me and Amanda with pulling together a group that would work on updating the existing courses, and if necessary, creating a few new courses that could be used in the field of study curriculum for kinesiology. So we pulled that group together. Again, it was a group of equal numbers of 2-year and 4-year faculty who had experience in teaching kinesiology at the lower division level. That group first worked on revising some of the ACGM courses in a meeting that we held over the summer. And then in the early fall, we brought them back together and they developed a few new courses as well. Then that got us to where we are now. Amanda and I brought that work forward for this group to consider. And if you approve these revisions and these courses, we will then take that to the board for their final approval, and we'll put the courses into the manual either as revised courses or as new courses as approved. Then we plan to reconvene that committee, kinesiology committee, subcommittee, and ask them to revive their work and put together a field study curriculum now armed with newly revised and new courses in kinesiology. Okay, any questions about that? I hope that gives you at least a quick overview of how we ended up here. So yeah, the plan is to use these courses as tools for the kinesiology subcommittee so that they can have the tools they need to put together a field study curriculum in kinesiology. So you're welcome to take this as a batch or take them as individual courses if you want to dig down into each course.
I do have one question before we get into the weeds of this.
Yeah.
I followed the KIND FOS group, walk this to and through the TTAC with great interest. So I fully support the spirit of what they're trying to accomplish. But what I don't see is in the proposed edits section, I can't see what's old, what's new.
Okay, I think we can help you with that.
I can share my screen and I currently have it side by side of what I just pulled from the ACGM currently and then with the proposed edit. So let me go ahead and share that real quick for you. Okay, so on the left right here is where we have the current ACGM courses as written, and then on the right over here is the proposed edits. Not all of the courses were edited. Some were just super minor edits, and then some of the courses had a pretty significant overhaul of the student learning outcomes and description. So that's kind of where we're at now.
So it looks like the first two are really looking at the maximum number of times students can actually take those physical activity courses and get credit, transfer credit to those. And so for the physical activities and the recreational dance.
Yes, those were honestly the two main edits, was from 2 to 4 for major, or 2 for non-major, 4 for major, from the previous 4 non-major and 8 major. So that's the only change that was proposed here.
So I guess we can open it up for any discussion on that, those two edits and take those together.
Quick question. Is there a reason why there are no learning outcomes for these two courses?
Not all of these courses have had learning outcomes developed for them. We've taken an approach to learning outcomes of developing when we have opportunity, and in not all cases have we had the opportunity to develop learning outcomes. These also are very broad general course descriptions. You'll notice that they have no specific numbers. That's because there's a wide array of activities that are covered by this. And so, rather than there's literally so many different variations of these courses offered, we probably would not have enough numbers to cover them all. So that's another reason that there's not learning outcomes for these two in particular, is because of the wide array of physical activities or recreational dance that are meant to be covered.
Thank you.
So are there any questions? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I have a quick question. This is Miguel at ACC. Was there a particular reasoning for the reduction in hours?
I believe so. It would fit better in the field of study overall, because that's the ultimate goal, is to create a field of study, and reducing those hours kind of made that a bit easier.
Yeah, I think there was also a feeling that the course should not be repeated too many times, or they didn't want students to earn like that high number of hours from repeating the same course. The group simply felt that a smaller number of hours should be repeatable.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So I guess, and this may be outside of the scope of this, but my question or concern is going to be the student athletes that are not majors, but are going to be playing at a community college for 2 years now are going to not be able to take or not be able to get credit for the second year of taking these physical activity courses.
Is that how most of the athletes will be signing up for these courses as recreational classes?
Well, we have like a weights and conditioning. We have actually two different competitive sports and a weights and conditioning course that we have under this heading that our student athletes take. And right now they, so that's how they get that 8. Really, they take it 2 semesters each year, 2 classes. And so they're getting 8 of those credits. And so this would knock that down. And I know that there are some students who are not majors that are going to be in that group.
Okay. So they might be student athletes, but they at the same time might not be kinesiology majors.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's an important consideration. Other folks at community colleges, are you familiar with this? Are there others with similar concerns?
This is Chris Nelson from South Texas College. I sort of had the opposite or complementary concern that if we allow non-kind majors, student athlete or not, to use up to 8 credits, where are they going to slot those 8 credits in the 60 credit real estate for an associate's?
Yeah, I believe that was part of the concern and the reason for the reduction.
I think it would just require us to rework some of our degree plans, and I'm fine with that if we know ahead of time. So.
Okay, so this may not be a major obstacle for the student athletes as long as degree plans are reworked.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm just going to add, like, I know some 4-year institutions have a limit of the number of physical activity courses that students can take. So for example, we have a maximum of 6 semester credit hours. And I'm just wondering if we could it just be set to where regardless if they're a major or non-major, it's a set amount versus 2 for a non-major and 4 for a major?
So you're saying, Barbara, you'd like to amend this to just a flat 4?
Either a flat 4 or is it possible to even do a flat 6? Because then maybe that can address some of the concerns that Erica and Christopher have both addressed.
Okay, sort of a compromise position of less than the original 8, but a little more than the proposed 4.
I think for me, it's hard to make this alignment without thinking about numbers of enrollments, because we are talking invariably here about transferability. So, if we're talking about 10 versus 1,000, that makes a huge difference how I would see this change manifesting itself. I don't know if there's any sort of guesstimate about the number of transfer kinesiology majors or physical ed majors.
The overall number of majors transferring in kinesiology on an annual basis?
Yes.
And how would those numbers impact a decision either way?
Well, I'd be less likely to go against the recommendation if having that information, because I mean, in some ways we're flying blind here, right? We don't have a lot of information to go on. This was the recommendation. I'd be less likely if there were a lot of majors involved, then I would probably want to trust the recommendations in front of us before we start making major edits to hours.
I know that is information that you can get. I don't have that here presently at my fingertips, though, or that I have to do a little research to pull that up. So I'm afraid I can't provide that to you right now, Sam.
That's okay. I appreciate it.
Okay, other questions or comments?
This is Amy Schaus from Tarleton State, and I would agree with Samuel. I think my inclination is to trust the subcommittee that put these recommendations, since they are in the field and probably did take into account, I would hope, some of these questions that we had. It would be nice to see how many students we're talking about, but I would hope that they took those things into account. That's really my only comment.
Yeah, I can tell you that the number of transfer students would be significant. And the reason I say that is because the TTAC makes recommendations for developing fields of study based on the number of transfer students in that major in recent years. So this is, kinesiology is definitely going to be one of the higher, on the higher end of the scale as far as transfer majors, and that's why it was developed for field of study. But again, I don't have a specific number for you, unfortunately.
This is Barbara again. I'm just, I mean, I'm fine with the 4. I guess my only question and concern is, why are we limiting non-majors to just 2 versus more than that? Because I'm thinking a lot of our liberal arts majors and so forth, there's a lot of free electives that they have. And so just by limiting then that, and then I think that we may have a lot of students who are also, as Erica mentioned, who are athletes who may not need, who may not be doing kines, and they may also have that have those electives to fill in whatever major. So I guess I'm just questioning a little bit of, why we're going with 4 for a major, but then only 2 for a non-major. To me, it seems like you almost wonder why flip that way versus the other way. So I would say could we just make it a blanket of just 4? If we're going to switch it to 4, then just 4 credits total versus distinguishing between a non-major and a major.
So just a flat 4 for everyone.
And then I also know, like, a lot of sometimes when working with transfer students, a lot of times at the community college, they might be taking, especially those in the sciences, they may be taking that 1 hour kines to be able to have a full-time status at the community college, because they're doing courses that may have a lab associated with it as well.
Right, yeah, those 4-hour lab courses. So we've had proposals to change the maximum credit hour per student to 6, and also to a flat 4 for both majors and non-majors. Co-chairs, should we take a vote on whether we want 4 or 6 for the maximum credit hours on these 2 courses?
Yes, I'd like to propose that we take a vote on if we do a flat 4 or a flat 6, or do we leave it as the committee recommended with the 2 for non-majors and a 4 for majors?
Okay.
So my question would be for the group, whether or not it sounds like may need a vote on what's proposed, and then a vote on whether we're going to do a flat 4 or 6, just for clarity.
I think you're right.
Agreed. And I'd call that first question to to go with the recommendation as presented or to recommend something else, TBD with a second vote.
So all of those in favor of the recommendation as presented, separating 2 for non-major and 4 for major, please signify.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, could you either raise your hand so we can see here. Thank you. 6, 7, 8. Is that correct?
I see 8 in favor as is.
All right, thank you. Put your hands down.
All of those opposed to the separation, are all the hands down, please? Thank you. I see one more hand up. Still up.
Heather, are you opposed? Is that why your hand is up?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, just couldn't get my screen to minimize.
Okay. All of those opposed to the presentation as is, please raise your hands. So I see 4 opposed, is that right? So it sounds like we're going with the recommendation as it's presented. All of those abstained? Any abstentions? It sounds like we're going with the separation as presented, 2 for non-major and 4 for major. So then we move to the kinesiology, correct?
1164, Introduction to Physical Fitness and Wellness is how it's written in the manual currently, and there was no proposal to change the name. There was changes to description and outcomes.
It's currently written as PHED 1164, and we're proposing the change to kinesiology.
No, that's all these courses are listed and can be listed as both PhD, physical education, or as kind kinesiology. So we just wrote these up as kind courses because we were working with a group that was called kinesiology.
Thank you.
And that was going to be my question as well. Is it still all of the kinds and the feds are cross-listed?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So am I correct in saying that the major edit on this is just the addition of the learning outcome?
No, there are currently learning outcomes.
No, just
it looks like there's change in the learning outcomes.
Yes, that's correct.
I move for approval.
Second.
All of those in favor? Sorry.
Who made the motion?
Brenda moved.
And Samuel second. Sorry to interrupt.
So we move to discussion. I'm trying to follow the 10-second rule. I don't see any hands raised. So all of those in favor of modifying the learning outcomes as presented? I see 10.
you
11, 12, 13. Thank you. Anyone opposed? I do not see any opposition. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Thank you.
Right, 1301 was the next course looked at, Foundations of Kinesiology. And looks like there were minor edits to the description and some changes to the learning outcomes. I'll let y'all take a look at that.
Are there any discussions on these minor changes? Or do we have a proposal to accept the edits?
I move approval. Amy
I,
Shao.
s- I second Miguel Ramos.
So it's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All of those in favor, please signify. I see 14 in favor.
14.
Okay. And lower your hands, please. All those opposed? I see no one opposed. Any abstentions? Looks like it's been moved. Thank you.
Okay, there were no edits to that 1346, which is current in the manual. So moving to 1306. In the manual currently, it's labeled first aid, and the proposed name was edited to first aid, CPR, and safety practices. They felt it was pretty essential to expand the name because it wasn't just simply first aid. And then a few edits to the description and a few edits to the outcomes.
Has everyone had a chance to Reed? If so, we'll accept a motion to accept these changes.
Can I move to accept the rest of the committee's proposal? I'm not an expert in kinesiology. It doesn't look like there's been any major changes to semester credit hours or maximum contact hours for the rest of these. So I would move to approve the rest of the recommendations for edits to the kinesiology PhD courses that were proposed by the kinesiology committee.
Second.
Yeah, Chris Nelson from South Texas College will second that.
So it's been moved and seconded that we go ahead and do a universal adoption of the changes proposed by the kinesiology committee. Is there any discussion? And I will lean on THECB here to guide us in this. Do we need to first vote on this one and then do a blanket?
No, I don't think so. We've had a proposal and it's been seconded, so.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we're approving only the recommended edits.
Correct. Not the new courses.
Copy that.
Only the recommended edits. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? I'm going to invite those in favor to please raise your hand. I see 13.
13. 13, that's my count as well.
All right, thank you. Lower your hands, please. All of those opposed to accepting the recommended edits, please raise your hand.
Okay, we have one.
I see one. Thank you. And abstentions. I see none. Thank you. That moved us through the recommended edits for kinesiology. Before we move to the next, can we get like a 5-minute break? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Is 5 sufficient?
Is 5 sufficient for folks? Do we need 7?
5's fine with me.
5 works.
As everybody
back
counts steps to the coffee machine.
Right. We're using minutes. Go ahead.
See you back at 10 after.
All right. I have 10:10. Are we all back in position? Thank you. My coffee cup thanks you. All right, 10:10. And we can pick back up with the new courses, please, the proposed courses.
Will do. I would like to throw out real quick. Samuel, your question about grad or transfers, we didn't have the total number of transfers per se, but the total number of graduates in 2021 was 4,380 at the university level. So not specifically what you asked for, but a general number to kind of help you see.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll go ahead and share the screen with the new course information. Okay. These are the proposed new courses, and the numbering, it would ultimately be up to TCCNS, and we've already spoke with John and let him know that we have the expectation of creating new courses. But the number in front, so right here too, was proposed by the work group to be a 200 level course. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, these are all intended to be sophomore level courses. Also note that the approval number is highlighted. That's because we haven't developed approval numbers for these yet. After this meeting, and we'll develop. We'll request if they are approved, we'll request course numbers, and we'll create approval numbers for these courses.
So I don't know if you would like me to read these. If you want to read them on your own, I'll kind of let that up to our co-chairs.
Can I ask for this one in particular, or any of these? Do we know if these courses are already available at the university level as 300 or 400? I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying. More and more courses are being developed at the 100 and 200 level that sometimes already exist. And do we know with these, do they already exist in higher levels at other institutions? And what the effect of doing this might be?
I know that these were developed by work groups of 2-year and 4-year faculty, and I believe, I can't speak to each specific course, but I do believe that many of these have a basis in university catalogs, because based on the discussion when we were working with the group, a number of these courses were discussed as though there were existing equivalents at universities. I could not speak to the level. It is an ongoing issue in course transfer and field of study that course levels are not universal, right? Some courses will be taught at the lower division at one institution, be taught at the upper division level at a different institution. That's part of what the field of study curricula rules are meant to address. is to basically guarantee transfer regardless of level at the existing, at the receiving institution.
I have a question as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Tasha Brown from Weatherford. Will this course potentially be cross-listed in the psych department? I'm seeing a lot of psychological terms and phrases there, so I'm curious about if we're going to consider cross-listing and or if these would be courses taught exclusively by kinesiology faculty or psych faculty as well.
Those cross-listing in the psychology rubric was not recommended as part of this course. And my understanding is that these courses as a whole are meant to be taught by kinesiology faculty, not in this case. I don't believe that the intention was for this to be a psychology course taught by psychology.
Thank you.
I have a question about the approval number. I assume that's the SIP code because that's what it seems to follow. I don't know who that's not a recommendation that would come out of our committee? Or
that's correct. The approval numbers are developed by board staff, which means me and Amanda. And these are just dummy numbers, so to speak, as I mentioned earlier. That's why they're highlighted in yellow. They will probably be in the 31 SIP, but the specific approval number is yet to be developed.
Yeah, they seem to fit better with the 0505, 31.0505, which is more, because these seem to be more exercise science and kines and not so much the recreational side of sport management that I think the 0501 seems to fall under.
Yeah, agreed.
So we have a motion to develop a new kinesiology PhD course in psychological aspects of human performance. Is there a motion to accept?
I just had a question. It would be, just to clarify, it'd be up to every institution to amend or not its qualification table for teaching this course.
That's correct. Each institution would need to decide the necessary qualifications for teaching this particular course.
Thank you.
Another question. Following Samuel's example, if every institution could set their own standards for it, then could this also be cross-listed with psychology if they decided to do that at the institution?
That's a decision, for community colleges, that's a decision made at the level of the manual, which basically means made by this committee, whether or not to cross-list courses. Community colleges using the manual can't unilaterally decide on their own to cross-list the course.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion to accept? I promise we'll move to discussion.
I'll move to approve the psychological aspects of human performance course.
I second.
Who seconded? I heard.
I did. Joshua Villalobos, El Paso Community College.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
To the issue of transferability and level, I had been researching this course. Texas State, our largest, I'm at Austin Community College, Texas State, our largest transfer partner. They have a 300 level course that's basically this course, psychosocial, I think it's called psychosocial exercise and sports science. So I'm not saying for or against, I'm just saying that's still going to be a challenge in many of these areas, as was mentioned earlier.
This is Amy Schaus at Tarleton, and I've had the same concern that ours is a 4,000 level course that's really similar to this, and it seems like a higher level. This is my opinion, not being from kinesiology or exercise science, but it seems like a higher level course, especially with, I would think, like general psychology would probably need to be taken before taking this course.
and not as co-chair, this is Nita Butte Queen, but as a SACS reviewer, I would have concerns about psychology, and credentialing of faculty.
Yeah, because I guess, listen, Miguel, so following up on that comment, Nita, so as if you're a SACS reviewer, if I think earlier the CB mentioned that it would be up to each institution to decide who's credentialed to teach the class, right? That opens up some scrutiny, I would say.
Mm-hmm. It does, and especially when the rubric is kinesiology, the KINE.
Yeah. Yeah. Not impossible, but it does
Correct.
raise issues.
Correct. Other hat back on. Is there any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, all of those in favor, please raise your hands. I think I see 7. I see 8. Thank you. All of those opposed, please signify. I see 7. Is that correct? They keep
5,
moving.
6, 7. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there will now be a kinesiology, psychology. I don't have the title anymore. Psychological aspects of human performance. Thank you.
All right, the next one is 200 level foundations of exercise science. Of note, they requested that biology 2401 and 2402 be prereqs for this class.
Did we skip fundamentals of strength and conditioning, or is my agenda in a different order?
Nope, it was me. All right, fundamentals of strength and conditioning.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Sure. And since none of the rest of the 3 invoke psychological science, I would tentatively move that we consider the next 3 as a batch, because they're all part of a larger whole.
I'll second that, Amy Schaus.
Any questions?
So we have a motion and a second to accept these last 3 as a group, as they're presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? I see 14 as I count out loud.
14, I count as well.
Okay, thank you. Lower your hands, please. All those opposed? See one. Thank you. Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
So our next agenda item is proposal of continuation of virtual field experience at the lower division level for the Associate of Arts in Teaching program. And
Well, Amanda, we should mention that we had put on the agenda an item from the UT Austin Data Center, but we were not able to get the materials from them in time for this meeting, so that item we need to table until a future meeting.
yes,
Can I request to have that information ahead of time? It's hard to have a good discussion and support from our math department without being able to discuss it with them beforehand to see what the implications are. Even like this teaching one, it looks like the proposal was sent way back in June. If we could have had this a little bit sooner than a few days, it would be very helpful in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just second what Brenda said, particularly around teaching, because I've only had some basic conversations with faculty in other area institutions.
Brenda, Miguel, is there a time frame that would be ideal? I know you mentioned Brenda speaking to other departments, so are we talking to be the month, 2 months? What's ideal?
Even a month would be useful.
Even a couple weeks. I know sometimes it's hard to get materials together, but you know, a few days wasn't quite.
I would, yeah, depending on the time of year, I'd suggest a minimum of a month, because that would give us a window to hit both a department meeting and a curriculum committee.
Perfect. Agreed.
Especially if, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 13-14, that's the 3-credit college algebra, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah, our folks will have some thoughts.
Yes, so would ours.
And any more questions or comments in regards to tabling that motion or that agenda item? And just so we're following rules of order, do I have a motion?
This is for 13-14.
To table the 13-14 and Dana Center and for proposal in general, because we don't have any of that information currently.
Okay, I second.
All in favor? All right, any opposed?
That's universal. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And now, as far as the lower division virtual field experience, we have Emma Gelsinger. She is also part of the THECB Academic Health Affairs Division, and she is on the call with us and would like to speak to a few things about this agenda item. So Emma, you have the floor.
Sure, thank you. So Brenda and others, I want to acknowledge the importance of getting those materials to you ahead of time. And, you know, I'm new to the coordinating board and this was sort of in my wheelhouse. So I'll take responsibility for that, not getting these out further ahead of time. I did want to share, so again, a while ago, we did receive a proposal from Lone Star College to create an option for virtual fieldwork for students in the early 1301 and 2301 education courses. I will say I have received inquiries from other institutions about this as well over the last maybe 6 months or so. The coordinating board had a waiver in place from COVID until I think it ended December 2022. So that waiver was in place during COVID to allow for the virtual field work. And so the inquiries have been, are we going to be able to continue to do virtual field work in these courses, even though that waiver is removed? So the proposal from Lone Star College is to make all of the virtual field work or all of the field work able to be completed virtually. I did want to note that the 15 hours that are referenced in the proposal that are allowed by the state board for educator certification for educator preparation programs, that is actually only 50% of the total 30 hours for the early field work. So typically, not typically, in rule, the SBEC has 50% virtual options for all of their early field work. I do also want to say that, so the students would complete these early fieldwork options once they get into the educator preparation programs, typically in a junior or senior year for a student on the traditional path. They will do additional field work, and then at least, in a university or more traditional educator preparation program, they will do what is essentially the equivalent of 70 days of clinical field work, or they would do a residency program. So, this wouldn't be, normally this would not be the only field work they would do before moving into a teaching position, for example. But I did just want to let you all know that the SBEC rules are at a 50% threshold rather than 100% threshold. I also, we need to double check with our general counsel, but I think we may be able to send these edits out for public comment if you all wanted to do that after moving it forward. And we can make sure to get that information out to appropriate stakeholders. So happy to answer questions if I can, or you all can have a discussion, obviously.
Miguel, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. So Emma, has there been any empirical research provided by Lone Star or any other college that supports the efficacy of the training itself in a virtual space? Because I know they mentioned that the courses are completed successfully, but I'm a little hesitant, to be honest, because in my brief conversations with our faculty here, they are very pro face-to-face observation, and I've had a couple of conversations with some 4 years, and they feel similarly. I happen to be a secondary social studies certified teacher in Texas. Once upon a time, I was a pretty good high school teacher, and I did field observation in person. And one of the nuances that I see in this is that if we were certifying, let's say we had two types of certification, one for certification in an online environment versus a face-to-face certification, it might be aligned for me a little bit better. And I'm not necessarily saying no, I could get to yes eventually, but my concern right now is that there is a difference between completing a course versus the long-term experiential aspect of being face-to-face and observing, effective teaching versus seeing it in a virtual space. So I don't know if they had provided any empirical research studies that show that.
I will go back and check. I haven't received any sort of, formal data presentations on it. I think you bring up a good point. I will go back and check, or Amanda, I'm not sure if you had seen that in their proposal. I don't think it was there. It is really it's a student access question. Yeah. As you mentioned, there are, drawbacks where a student is not physically in the classroom. So I fully understand that there.
Yeah. I mean, and to Brenda's earlier point, and this happens, right? Like, I'm not even saying this is a bad thing or something, but I would like to have more conversations with faculty and some of our partners to see, what kind of gaming it out. What does this mean in terms of students' capacity to do, face-to-face teaching, learning from a virtual space, right? For me, in like at midnight on Saturday, I'm thinking, well, would I want a student to get a license if they only took the virtual driving test, right?
Right. Well, and I think to that point, again, I agree with what you're saying, but they will have other opportunities to do in person. So, which I think is probably why SBEC has it set at that 58% threshold, so that they can be sure that the students are doing that in person as well.
Yeah.
I will say I have presented at several sort of ed prep groups, letting them know that there would be consideration of virtual options for field work over the past few months. I haven't, received any emails of, this is gonna ruin things, but
yeah.
But I think,
like I said, I'm not
taken.
Yeah, and I'm like, I could get to yes. I would have liked a little more time to consider it with our folks, but.
And Heather, we'll get to you just one second. Miguel, it doesn't directly answer your question, but I would like to point out that in the proposal, it is noted that they say it's vital that our students' experience aligns with the expectation of university partners and communicating with those university partners. There was only one university that would maintain the requirement of in-person observation, which is Stephen F. Austin, and all of the other universities were in favor and willing to accept the virtual option coming in. And on that note, they did mention that that would be conveyed to the student during the advising process. So just wanted to highlight that part of the proposal.
And I did see that. Yes, thank you.
Good deal. Heather, you had a question or comment?
I just want to say I'm absolutely in favor of more discussion on this or getting more feedback from groups and departments. But I can say from our student experience and demographic, when you have part-time students or even full-time students that are working full-time, traveling some very large geographic distances to our classes, much less the fieldwork observation, the virtual aspect is equity for us. It's equity and access. It's huge in the rural area, and it allows us to have more observation partners. We don't restrict them in their number of chances or the places that are available. And that lets us help more childcare partners in rural areas because they get to be involved in this. This is a potential hiring ground for those kind of partners and those schools. So it's a valid thing, and it would be a positive thing for the small schools and the rural schools.
Thank you, Heather.
Christopher?
Yeah, just a point of where I'm guessing that this matters before this particular committee because it would involve changing course description language.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Brenda?
My question is having 16 hours. It seems like it should be 15 hours of, I mean, even when you look at the number of hours per credit hour, I know this is the lab component or the experiential component. TEA is limiting it to 15, but yet we're asking the course to be 16, and normally number of lab hours kind of follow the 15-week semester. So just curious about the 16 and why they picked 16 rather than 15.
That's probably due to a slight difference that most community colleges run 16 contact hours to the credit hour. Most universities run 15 contact hours to the credit hour. That's where that arises almost certainly.
Any other questions or comments?
And since the courses involved here are what, the English or the education 1301, 2301, I'd feel much more comfortable moving on something like that if it was coming from the education field of study committee.
I understand. Making these sorts of changes to the ACGM is really more your province. The field of study is more concerned with the big picture of what courses to include in the field of study curriculum. They're not necessarily always going to dig into the particular characteristics of each course.
Okay, roger that.
Co-chairs, would you like to call the question?
So we have a motion to include video observation and change to 16 hours. Is there a second?
A second, Margaret Richardson, St. Philip's College.
And thank you. Do we have any other discussion?
And just one quick question. I think people have addressed this a couple of times, but would this be then have to involve a further extension of the waiver vis-a-vis the Texas Administrative Code?
No.
No, the waiver was in place because this option was not available in the course description. And so if we are integrating this into the course description, then we would not need any additional waiver moving forward.
Joshua?
So I guess the way that I was reading that description, is it either or could it be up to 16 virtual hours? So could they do a mixture, or is it just either virtual or face-to-face?
It could be a mixture, and maybe we could modify that language slightly to make that clear.
Yeah, maybe if we just do up to 16 hours, so that way there's that hybrid modality. I think there's a huge benefit if there's those who want to do the virtual and the online, so that way they can start to explore a little bit of this hybrid modality that schools are starting to use more and more.
Yes, absolutely. It would be up to the program or the institution how much they wanted to do virtual and how much in person. So I'm not sure what the process is for amending the motion. I don't know if you have to amend the motion or just make a note in the vote that it was for and up to 16 hours can be completed via virtual.
It'd probably be helpful to have an amendment to the motion, making it clear that the total number of field experience hours must be 16, but that 16 could be composed of
face-to-face or virtual.
Combination of in-person and virtual.
Okay, so in summary, there's a motion to amend the language. The language is not specific. We just want to ensure that it includes something along the lines, any combination of in-person and virtual. Okay, that was Josh's motion, I believe.
Yes, thank you.
So we have a motion to amend the motion. Do we have a second?
So seconded, Chris Nelson.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor of amending the proposed motion to amend the motion, please raise your hands. That's tough. I see 14.
Count 14 as well.
Thank you. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Abstaining, Miguel? One abstention. Thank you.
This is for the motion to amend, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Nita, could you recall who made the original motion for the notes? Recall? I know Margaret was our second.
To amend the motion?
Not the initial motion.
Yeah, I'm lost now.
Okay, no worries. About that.
So now do we have to vote on the amended proposal, if that's the way we're going to go forward?
That sounds correct.
You got it?
So do we have any discussions over the amended proposal now, or are we ready to take a vote? All those in favor of accepting the amended proposal for the virtual hours? I have 13, I think.
I count 13 as well.
All those opposed? Looks like one opposed or two.
Two opposed.
Two opposed. Any abstention? Okay. Looks like it's accepted.
I did want to just follow up and ask, again, I do have to double check with the general counsel, but would you all prefer to send out for public comment? And then if there's any significant comment, we could bring it back to you in the spring.
That would be my preference. Yeah.
Okay. I do have to double check that we are able to do that, and we'll communicate with you as soon as possible on what the next steps are for that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor of submitting for public comment, should general counsel approve?
$15.
15, I count 15 as well.
All right, so I believe that covers it. No objections or abstention. All right. Thank you for that offer, Emma.
Yes, thank you all very much.
So that's our last action item. Our final item on the agenda. Just to let you know that we plan to work on a spring 2024 edition of the ACGM. Due to some staff turnover, we haven't had a new edition of the ACGM in some time, since 2021. So Amanda and I will be working on updating the manual, both online and PDF. And that means that we'll work on it in the spring. We'll have to go through the approval process here internally, and then we will look at probably a publication sometime in early fall. Next steps with the committee will include, hopefully we'll have a spring meeting, and at that spring meeting, that's typically when we examine the manual as a whole and bring you information about which courses are not being much utilized anymore. And you can consider those for deletion if you wish. That's usually a big part of the work of the spring meeting. We have other agenda items come along, we'll include those as well. Just to let you know, any ACGM committee member is welcome to bring forth an agenda item. If you're part of a statewide group or just hear from faculty at your own institution, you're welcome to work with me and Amanda and or co-chairs to develop potential agenda items for upcoming committee meetings. Any questions about that?
After the meeting, I will send out a copy of the PowerPoint so you can just have that overall summary and access to the links. Is there any additional information about anything we discussed today? Anyone from the committee would like? All right, and then once Emma has reached out to our general counsel and we get feedback as to what is and is not allowed in regards to the public comment, I will update the committee and let everyone know. John, is your mic working, and did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I just wanted for clarification though, James, do I need to send you when TCCNS comes up with the new course numbers for those 2000 level KNIE rubrics? Do we send those to you?
Yeah, send them to me, copy Amanda, send them to both.
Copy Amanda, will do.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
All right, any final comments from anyone on the committee?
Co-chairs, could you call a vote for adjournment?
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
And second, Chris Nelson.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All of those in favor of adjourning today's meeting, please signify.
All right, appears to be unanimous.
Thank you so much. Thank you all your members for coming in today and joining us for this meeting. Thank you particularly co-chairs, Nita and Erica.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you stepping up. John, thank you for being here, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Be well.